fourth generation heavyweight championship belt might be coming back. Okada playing a little bit of gambling here with his G1 Climax 31 win, and some good news for New Japan audiences. This is the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. We got a lot of New Japan news to talk about today because the press conference that happened after the G1 finals just kind of kept the momentum going of them switching things up and making things a little bit more interesting after it's been kind of stale for a little bit before the G1. But before we get into any of that, I like to remind you guys, I like free stuff. I like giving away free stuff because when I give you guys free stuff, then I get free stuff too. So let's take advantage of some free stuff. Down in the description box below, you can get up to between $50 to $250 worth of Bitcoin for free by using the Celsius or the BlockFi links down in the description box below. You should, of course, read up on see what deals they have going on right now. You can also get 30 days free trial of Amazon or Audible by using the affiliate links, and up to 2 stocks, each of them worth up to $2,300 from Webull. Again, check down in the description box, get yourself some free stuff, and let's get on to the news. So yeah, we all know what happened now at the G1 finals this week and the unfortunate injury to Kota Ibushi. The update on that though is it was a separated shoulder. So they right now are not saying it was a broken bone. It was a separated shoulder that apparently happened. So that's probably better news than what it looked like on that night when it scared the crap out of everybody else. Of course, we're going to have to keep seeing what the new news items are about Ibushi's injury, about what's going on with that, about his recovery time. And we don't know right now, obviously, because it just happened. But then after the G1 Climax finals, we had the press conference the next day, and Kazuchika Okada decided he was going to drop a bombshell on everybody. So Okada essentially says during his press conference that, you know, the winner of the G1 usually gets a briefcase with the contract to take on the IWGP, now World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleKingdom. But he wanted to change it up a little bit. He, instead of the briefcase, wants the 4th generation IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, which is synonymous with him. It's his belt pretty much in most people's eyes. He wants them to give him that belt instead of the briefcase. Now, the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling then said, let me get this straight, are you relinquishing the contract in exchange for the championship belt? And Okada said yes. So that was a little confusing here. This could mean that Okada just gave up his right to challenge the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleKingdom in exchange to get the belt back. Or it could mean that the belt is just a stand-in for the briefcase. So instead of the briefcase, he's going to have the belt. So this brings up a lot of things that could happen. By the way, Tama Tonga is not going to be out of his challenge. Apparently the right to challenge the world champion at WrestleKingdom next year is still going to be up in the air. I believe a power struggle in a couple weeks, but Okada will take on Tama Tonga. Now I'm thinking even more so, it's a possibility Tama Tonga could win that match. And then he could, I mean, the way they just changed everything up, the dynamic that's been a little bit predictable over the last 2 years, they've really switched it up now with Okada making this big change. It's a fairly honorable thing too for Okada to do because he basically is saying that, you know, he doesn't feel that the ending of that G1 match was honorable. He didn't really beat Ibushi, so he wants to have this belt. He said he made a promise to Ibushi the next time they meet will be for the belt, for a belt. So he's going to hold on, he wants to hold on to the IWGP Heavyweight Championship belt until Ibushi can come back so he can wrestle Ibushi. They can finally decide who actually wins. So Okada is essentially kind of throwing out his G1 win, which is really crazy to think about it. And possibly throwing away his right to challenge for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. He even said in the same press conference that he wants to spark New Japan, which needs a spark right now. He wants to spark New Japan in his own way, but not as IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, but as the G1 champion represented by the 4th generation belt. I gotta tell you this, if they wind up using that 4th generation belt now as the G1 championship belt, and they just bring that back, you know, this is a good way of listening to the fans because a lot of fans have been very unhappy about that new championship belt. A lot of fans love, and so do I, love that 4th generation that 4th generation heavyweight championship belt. And Okada being the one to bring it back is pretty cool. Now, I don't know if this is going to lead to them splitting the belts up again, or we're going to be reintroducing this as the G1 Championship belt, and is it going to be defended throughout the year? Where they can go anywhere with it, and what happens to the contract status about who gets the shot at WrestleKingdom? These answers are going to be forthcoming in the next couple of weeks as we head into Power Struggle, which is now a far more important show than it has been in the past couple of years. I'm really looking forward to it. One other note of news here, a bit of good news for New Japan, is we're finally taking that first step back to them getting to pre-pandemic New Japan. And the first step is the fact that they announced that the shortened cards with 5 or 6 matches on them, they're now going to be expanding their cards back to the regular cards, which they had, which usually have about 7, 8, 9, sometimes even 10 matches on it, and more of the wrestlers on the card, which means that there's going to be more booking storylines, which is, I think that's a big reason why the booking has seemed so bad, because if you're only having 5 matches on the card and you really can't maneuver too well with having long-term storylines, because who knows the next time you're going to get these guys on the same card, and you can only focus on like a couple people. Now hopefully the booking will be a little bit better if you can have more people on every show, and these guys are getting more reps. Hopefully that also means less injuries, because I think because of not being in ring shape so much, and some of these guys not wrestling for 3 or 4 weeks at a time and then getting back in there, that may be a reason for some of these injuries that have been happening. But overall, a lot came out of this press conference. A lot more than usually comes out of this press conference. And it's up in the air now what's happening in January WrestleKingdom. Again, it's a 3-night WrestleKingdom. 2 of them at the Tokyo Dome and the 3rd night at another dome. And it's the 50th anniversary coming up for New Japan Pro Wrestling next year. 50 years of NJPW. Again, they're not the oldest, but they're one of the oldest existing wrestling companies in the world. And I really have a feeling that 2022 might be a resurgence for New Japan. Now, I don't know if that's going to apply over here in the West. That's a different video that I am going to be doing this weekend, because quite frankly, and I'm shooting with you guys on this right now, this is not part of the script I made for this video, but I'm fairly shocked that me and 3 other people reported on Katsuyori Shibata coming back to wrestling. That's huge. Kota Ibushi's injury, that's huge. And the news today from Okada and New Japan about what they're doing with their crowds, and the IWGP 4th Generation Championship coming back, that's huge. And very few other people are talking about it. So that does beg the question, and something I've worried about, because of AEW, because of the pandemic, because of the bad booking, because of the small crowds, the 20% capacity, 30% capacity crowds, has the West fallen out of love with New Japan? Have all of the people who were 2 or 3 years ago talking about, and some pretending that they were watching New Japan Pro Wrestling because of AEW, and now you got AEW doing stuff, do they just not give a crap about New Japan? Is it because New Japan gave content strikes to a lot of these creators? We'll talk about that in a video I'll have coming out this weekend and on my podcast. But until then, I want to know what you guys think about this big announcement from Okada that he is maybe foregoing his right to challenge at WrestleKingdom in the main event in order to get the 4th generation belt back. Are you happy the 4th generation belt's coming back? What does this mean for Tama Tonga and Kazuchika Okada's match? It's still going to be for the contract, but does this mean it's probably more likely that Tama Tonga is going to win that contract? And what do you think about them going away from these 5-6 match cards and back to full, proper New Japan Pro Wrestling shows? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until then, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and share it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you talk about pro wrestling and sports entertainment. I will see you guys this weekend. Have a good weekend. Be safe and take it easy.